Some people say that their main aim in life is just to live for as long as possible. But think about what you're saying if that's the case. Because most 100-year-olds I've seen, or certainly pictures of them, is where they've been sat in nursing homes staring into space with some of their family around them and dribbling onto their birthday cake. What kind of a life is that? What kind of quality of life? Today I want to delve into the idea of mortality. But stick with me, because death, seriously, A, it's a part of life, and B, it could be one of your greatest motivators. Wouldn't it be much easier for us to plan our lives if we knew early on exactly how long we had? Well, sadly, life doesn't work like that. But I think we can learn a lot from the possibility of early death. And here are 4 lessons that I've learned that I'd like to share with you today. The first lesson is to start working towards your long-term goals now. As soon as you can, as soon as you know them, as soon as you think you have an idea of what you want to do, get on with it. And just take daily, consistent steps towards your goal. Most of us really don't have to travel very far to see examples in nature of consistent daily growth. Things don't grow fast enough for us to watch them growing, but that daily growth produces these huge trees. Studies have suggested that it takes 10,000 hours of practice to master a skill. That's 27 years if you practice for 1 hour a day. Over 13 years if you practice for 2 hours a day, and over 9 years if you practice for 3 hours a day. And let's face it, unless you're doing something full time, who's got 3 hours a day to practice anything? Well, of course, there are certain people who have taken one thing and used it as their profession. Musicians, artists, actors, for example. And the good news for the rest of us is that whilst it might take 10,000 hours to master a skill, it doesn't take that long to get good at it. The next lesson is to plan for the worst, but hope for the best. So yes, we want to have goals into our old age. Fantastic. But we have to also remember that we are part of the lottery of life and that anything could happen to us at any time. So what you don't want to do is to store up all your goals and dreams for later in life. A good friend of mine died of cancer at the age of 33. Now, 2 years prior to that, he didn't even know he had it. He had his whole life ahead of him. I remember him having a picture of a car on his wall, and underneath it said, "One day, ... Well, that one day never came for him. You hear this type of story every day. Only yesterday there was something on the local news about two people who had motor neuron disease, the same disease as Professor Stephen Hawking. And again, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, they were perfectly fine. Didn't even know they had it. Now, in wheelchairs, can hardly talk, debilitated, no cure. They were talking about testing a certain drug, but at the moment, no cure. Make some memories while you're younger. Do things. Don't put off those big holidays or those big plans to do other things until later in life. Work as hard as you can to become financially independent as quickly as you can, so that you've got the means and the time to do things throughout your life, and not just storing them until the end and saying, oh, one day we'll have enough money to do so and so, because one day might not arrive. It's sad, but it's true. And I received an email recently telling me about somebody that had terminal cancer. And the message said that he was working to put his affairs in order. And that made me think, why wait to be told that your life is going to be cut short before you put your affairs in order? Surely, if you find out you've only got a bit of time left, the last thing you want to be doing with it is sorting your life out. Surely it's better to live in an organized state now, so that should the worst happen, you can make the most of every moment you've got left. Part of the problem with our society is that we often focus on the cure for something rather than the prevention. And I'm going to stand on the shoulders of the giant who is Wayne Dyer, who talked about being in a situation where you're going from A to B or from B to C. Now, let's say you're at B. B is average health. A is sickness. And C is perfect health. So if you look at our healthcare system, for example, it's designed to cure or treat illnesses that the average person might have. What it's not designed to do, as a rule, what it doesn't focus on the most, is to promote perfect health. Now, if you're doing all the things you can to be as healthy as possible, you're a lot less likely to get sick. Whereas if you're focusing on treating sickness and the average person isn't really making too much of an effort to get fit and healthy. From a personal point of view, yes, you want to try and live as long as you maintain quality of life. And the way to do that is to focus on your fitness and health. I listened to a TED Talk on YouTube recently. TED Talks are brilliant, by the way. And this chap was talking about ways in which you can increase how long you live. But he made the interesting study that a moderate amount of exercise is good for you, but an excessive amount of exercise can actually reduce your longevity. Now, the example he gave was, I think, was sort of a 5K run, in that if you regularly run at maybe sort of 10 kilometers an hour, That's good for your quality of life. If you go faster than that on a regular basis, you can actually be doing damage to your heart, which will reduce your quality of life. He then gave the example of an ultra marathon runner and the fact that he went and he ran miles and miles every day, and when he died and they looked at his heart, it had lots of kind of lesions and scar tissue, etc. What this is saying is that if this marathon runner, ultra marathon runner, had decided not to run so much, he would have lived longer. But here's the thing. Why would he want to do that if running is his passion? If that's the thing he lives for, if that's the thing that gives him purpose and meaning and happiness, why would he want to not break records? Why would he want to not push himself as far as he could go, regardless of whether that reduces how long he's going to live for? It's the quality of life that counts, not the quantity. Think about it. It's the same with people who do extreme sports. Many of them only know how far they can go when they've gone too far. When they either die as a result of trying something, or it results in serious injury and they can't do it anymore. But they're always pushing their limits. They're always breaking records. Because that, for them, is what they do. It's their passion. So who's to stop them? Who's to say that that's wrong? I think it's a good thing. If you've found what you love doing, you need to weigh up the consequences. Is it worth sacrificing some extra years for? Those years at the end of your life when you're going to be slowing down anyway, when your body can't do a lot of the things it used to be. It's not as strong, it's not as fast. Think about it. When she was younger, I took my niece to graveyards like this one a couple of times. Now I know that sounds weird and creepy, but there's a good reason for it, because what I challenged her to do was to go around and have a look and see who was the youngest person who was buried in the graveyard. And we'd find that person, we'd find quite a few young people, and some of them would just give a little note on the headstone. And afterwards I'd have a conversation about the fact that you never know when your time is. So that's why it's important to live every day. To really live. I love that moment in the film Braveheart where Mel Gibson's character, William Wallace, says, "Every man dies, but not every man really lives." So, should your aim really be to live for as long as possible? No. But should your aim be to really live for as long as possible? Absolutely. That's it from the Wisdom Shack today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please feel free to comment and like below, subscribe, ring that little ding-a-ling bell, and I'll see you next time on the Wisdom Shack. Bye for now.